Well, hello, my name is Bob Lingley. I'm with Mount of the Lord Church in Milford with Pastor Christopher Kagler. And how we met was at a men's breakfast in Hopkinton at Faith Community Church. And I've been there about a year, and it's been an immense blessing to my life to sit down with these men on a weekly basis and see, number one, that the family is growing and that men are getting together to be serious about what's going on in our families, in our towns, our communities, and our nation. And so it's a men's breakfast. Starts at 6:30 to 7. We have a hot meal, and then from 7 to 8 o'clock, there's some prayers and announcements, and there's a guest speaker every week. Sometime it may be you, who's ever visiting from around the world. Fellowship brings revelation, illumination, and reflection. The things we will never see or understand in our own time. In Luke 28, these two disciples had been on the road with Jesus after his resurrection, but they did not recognize him. They spent the whole day talking with this resurrected Christ and the lover of our soul, and he expounded on what he had to do and through the scriptures all day long. But it was at the end of the day when he was going to go farther and they were going to go into the home, they invited him. And it says in Luke 28, verse 28, they drew near to the village where they were going, and he indicated that he would have gone farther. But they constrained him, saying, "Abide with us." Now it came to pass, as he sat at the table with them, that he took bread, blessed it, and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they knew him. In other words, they spent the day with this man. They were headed in the same direction on the highway. But when it was a time to split up, they knew they needed to spend more time, but they didn't really know why at first. But when they got down to break bread, to have a meal together, face to face, then he exposed himself to who he was, and they realized, they saw who he truly was. In First John 1:7, it says, "But if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we'll have fellowship with one another. And the blood of Jesus Christ, his son, cleansing us from all sin." With Jesus, it's about meeting together. He says that if we look at this text and we reverse it or diagram it, we'll see that if we're not fellowshipping with one another, if we're not gathering together to hold our brother up and to fellowship with him and encourage him, then we aren't walking in the truth. We're not walking in Jesus' light of revelation, of love, of what's going to happen. We're missing out. And Jesus is all about family. In John 17, he specifically says this is the last of 5 chapters in John from 13 to 17, where he gives his last dissertation to his disciples. He says to his Father, he says, "I pray for them. I do not pray for those in the world. Only those you gave me, for they are yours. And I do not pray for these alone, but also for those who will believe in me through their word, that they all may be as one, as you and I and me and you, that also may be one in us." In other words, the Trinity is one family. They're knit. They have the same mind, the same heart. And Jesus is praying that we will have that. And the reason for this, he says, is that the world may believe that you sent me. In John 13, the beginning of this dissertation, he says in verse 34, "New commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another. By this, all will know that you are my disciples, if you love for one another." Well, if we don't meet together, if we don't encourage each other weekly and daily, see what my brother's going through today. Did he lose a loved one? Is there sickness? Is they having financial problems? If I don't know about these things and meet him face to face, how can I encourage this person in going through what he has to go through? And the same for me when I'm having a bad time or a bad day. In chapter 15, in verse 11, he says, "These things I've spoken to you, that my joy may remain in you, and that your joy may be full." This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for his friends. You are my friends if you do whatever I command you. With Jesus, it's all about our purpose and position in society in God's kingdom. I heard a woman speak, and most may know her. Her name is Joyce Meyer, I believe, who coined this phrase. She says that in a women's conference, she spoke and said to them, there is a king and a fool in every man, but it's the one you talk to who shows up. The one thing I've seen in this men's breakfast is that the fellowship is getting tighter and tighter, closer than my own blood family, and they've helped me through a lot. My wife and I watch a lot of period dramas, especially BBC, Masterpiece Theater, and one called Sanditon, which is based on Jane Austen's last novel, is called Sanditon again. And the main character, Sidney Parker, is from an aristocratic family whose brother is the developer of the seaside resort that it's centered on. And he meets this woman who comes from a farm but well-educated in that of society and learned in books. And they're antagonistic because he's arrogant. He's had his heart broken previously by an engagement that fell apart. And when they start to really fall in love, he says to her one day, he says this: I am my best self. I'm my truest self when I'm with you. I can't become a better man or a better person or a better citizen unless I have family, brothers around me that will encourage me. And I'm going to start to end this with Hebrews 10:24 through 25. It says, let us consider one another in order to stir up love and good works, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together as in the manner of some, or today most, but exhort one another, and so much more as you see the day approaching. You don't even have to look at the news to see how much the last days are here. And this is how we are meant to confront the issues of life. We're meant to do it together. Jesus led by example. He started with 12 men. It's still the fastest growing group of people on the planet 2,000 years later because it's real, it's live. Let me just pray this for you. May the Lord bless you and keep you. And Lord, make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Those of you that are listening to my voice, please, I encourage you, I invite you, come and visit the men's breakfast at Faith Community Church in Hopkinton every Friday morning at 6:30. We're usually done by 8:15, 8:30, where we finish off by praying for each other's needs, our families, our pastors, and our nation. So I thank you for listening. I hope to see your smiling face there some morning. Again, this is Bob Lingley. Hope to see you. Enjoy the day.